Hello, everyone. Welcome to the best place for the best takes on this Monday, February 9th, 2025. Welcome into the Benjamin Cure Show after what was an incredible game. I truly did not see that coming. I had no idea that was going to be how that game played out. I thought there was a storybook finish incoming, and there was a storybook finish for sure from Philly, who has now replicated this Cinderella story of killing these major favorites or of killing these dynasties, or at least putting a stone in their path. I mean, man, Philly deserves all the credit in the world, and I definitely got this one wrong going into it. I did not see this coming, like I said, and while I do want to address the reasons I was wrong, what happened in that game, I want to get into the GOAT debate because I know that's obviously top of mind for everyone this morning. I always make it a point to, after these major games, especially on a Monday morning, I want to give credit to the winner first. I want to give them their flowers and give them their praise because they deserve it more so than we want to talk about the losers, and maybe more so than we should talk about the losers. So let's start with Philly, who it feels like the Eagles have brought back old school football. Everybody's been complaining for years, oh, you can't do anything in the line of scrimmage anymore. The physicality is gone from the game. What happened to the run game? What happened to the style of football that I grew up, that I loved when I grew up and watched growing up? And great coaching and defensive schemes and bringing the pressures and bringing the blitz and turnovers. What happened to the football and what happened to the game that I loved? And it feels like when you watch that game last night, it is a total resurrection of what we thought football lacked for so many years. A resurrection of the run game, the importance of the offensive line, the importance of winning at the line of scrimmage, the importance of the pass rush. And in the end, the stat is crazy. Philly blitzed 0.0% of the snaps. They blitzed 0 times in that game and on 0.0% of the snaps, of course. And in the end, it didn't matter because that front four brought all the pressure they've been bringing since the second half of this season, really, and they were unstoppable. And I think when you look at this team overall, I really want to recognize Jalen Hurts, because Jalen Hurts might have the most underrated story of any quarterback in the NFL at this point. The amount of things that he has had to overcome and the journey that he has had to get to this point. If I think of Jalen Hurts and I think of one word, doubted. It's not necessarily underrated, although they do go hand in hand. Jalen went to Alabama. Jalen was the starter. Jalen was a good college quarterback for Alabama. And then they sub him out in the second half of the national championship game, and they never really looked back. And even though he had an opportunity to play once Tua went down the following season, Nick Saban told him, look, Tua is my starter, and if you want to go somewhere else, that's fine. You need to do this to improve, though. And Jalen Hurts took that to heart, went to OU, played an amazing year for the Sooners. I can't remember if he was a Heisman finalist or Heisman runner-up, but he had an amazing year. And he was still doubted. He came to the NFL as a second-round pick, and then he had a lot of work to do. And that first year wasn't pretty. First year was a lot of sitting. That second year, he was really raw. That third year finally felt like it clicked for him with A.J. Brown. And, of course, they make it all the way to the big game. That was 2 years ago. And in the end, Jalen Hurts has outplayed Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl twice now. The first time, he absolutely outplayed Patrick Mahomes, and he said after the game yesterday, we should have won that first one too, and I should be a 2-time Super Bowl champion. But for now, he is at least content with being a 1-time Super Bowl champion because he outplayed Mahomes yesterday. He was more efficient. He was more effective. He trusted his teammates more. And he let the game come to him more, I think, in the second Super Bowl appearance for him than he did in that first one. In the first one, it felt like when you watch the tape, yes, Jalen was cooking in the first half, but it felt like at the end, he was trying to will them to a win that simply they were not going to get. The cards did not fall the way they wanted it to in that game 2 years ago, but everything went right for Philly yesterday, and everything went wrong for the Chiefs. And in the end, Philly doesn't even need Saquon Barkley to go for 150. He didn't have his most efficient outing, but the play-action passes worked, and Kellen Moore had some great creative schemes, and Jalen Hurts played the kind of football that he likes to play, which is hyper-efficient, throw the ball 22 times. That's all it takes. Give me a little bit in the run game. Give us some first downs. Give us at least a tush-push touchdown. And in the end, Jalen Hurts finishes with 3 total touchdowns and the Super Bowl MVP. And it is such an amazing story. And I'm glad that he's gotten to this point because many people, including myself, yesterday I was having a conversation before the game. I was like, nobody thinks Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL or a top 3. I think this morning, I don't know if I put him in top 5, to be honest. Even after that Super Bowl win, I would probably put him at 5. But there's an argument to be made that Jalen Hurts might be the most clutch player or the most clutch quarterback in the NFL right now, even ahead of Mahomes. It might go, if you were to do a real-time ranking right now, the most clutch players in the NFL, number 1 would probably be Jalen Hurts. Number 2 would be Jaden Daniels. Mahomes would at best be 3 right now. And maybe that's recency bias, and we're taking too much stock of what happened yesterday and maybe piling a little too much on Mahomes, who I'll get to in a second. But, Jalen Hurts has totally changed the perception of who he is as a quarterback as of this morning. And it's funny because everything that he does is corny until you win. Everybody says, oh, he's just an IG caption quarterback. He just talks in quotes. It's really corny. He doesn't produce when he needs to. He's not one of the better quarterbacks in the league. All these things that we say about him. And in the end, he ends up being the guy who leads this team to the win. And it was a true team win. I'm not saying it was all Jalen Hurts. But his leadership here was undeniable, and his composure that he's always had was a key part of this team. You saw it on Saquon's face before the game started when he was interviewed. I felt like the Chiefs came out really loose and lax, and it felt like the Eagles just came out so focused, and I was like, I don't know if I love that. They were super serious, but in the end, they were just clearly hungrier and more focused on the task at hand than the Chiefs were. The Chiefs got boat raced, and quickly, before I pivot to the Chiefs here, all the credit in the world to Nick Sirianni, who I was very critical of this year, alongside many other people. His decision-making at times makes me want to rip my hair out. I didn't like him jawing with the fans. I don't like him getting into arguments with his own players. But in the end, there might not be a better coach for Philadelphia than Nick Sirianni. That culture, that fan base, the arguments, the competitiveness, sometimes losing your temper. He feels like the perfect guy for that team, and in the end, it's undeniable. Nick Sirianni, for as much as we criticized him, has proved a lot of us wrong this morning and might be one of the best head coaches in the NFL. So let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs now. Because Mahomes chose the worst game of his career to have the worst game of his career, and that is undeniable. And that goes hand in hand with a lot. But the same way that I give all the credit in the world to the entirety of that Philadelphia Eagles team, I put all the blame in the world on every single member of that Chiefs team. I put the blame on Mahomes. I put the blame on Travis Kelce. I put the blame on that defense. I put the blame on that offensive line. I put the blame on Andy Reid. I put the blame a little bit on Spags as well, because I didn't feel like I saw the amount of exotic blitzes or great schemes defensively that we've seen from Spags in that defense all throughout the season and all throughout really the last 3-4 years while they've been on this dynastic run. I couldn't believe what I saw yesterday. That first half, it felt like everything went right for the Eagles and everything went wrong for the Chiefs. And in the end, everybody deserves the blame. Nobody on this Chiefs team or part of that organization can leave yesterday's game and say, I am not to blame. Even to a certain extent, Xavier Worthy, who finished with an amazing stat line, but it was too little too late. Those were garbage time yards and touchdowns. To me, the game ended when it was 27-0 in the third quarter. That, to me, was the ending of the game. I don't recognize the 40-22 final score. The 22 points are absolute BS, and it was garbage time points and garbage time yards. And in the end, I'm not going to even take into account Mahomes' box score, the Chiefs' box score, because it makes the game look so much more respectable than the actual film was. And Tom Brady, being in the booth for this one, there's a little bit of poetic justice to this. And I'm the first one who will tell you I love Mahomes. To me, he is still my favorite quarterback in the league by far. I have supported him more so than I think many others out there, besides maybe Nick Wright. I'm a huge fan of Patrick Mahomes. But for the next 5 years minimum, the GOAT conversation is over. To me, Patrick Mahomes would have to win 8 Super Bowls for me to even consider reopening the GOAT conversation. Because now, Patrick is 3-2 in Super Bowls. Well, Tom Brady started off 3-2 in his Super Bowls as well. It's not the same. Not all losses are created equal. Patrick Mahomes' 2 postseason losses or his 2 Super Bowl losses put a major damper on whatever we thought his career was capable of being. Patrick has now been blown out in 2 Super Bowls. Brady, to his credit, stats that we really didn't think about or really even know until yesterday, Tom Brady was never blown out in a Super Bowl. The Super Bowls that Tom Brady lost, which he lost 3 of the 10 that he ended up going to, were all one-possession games. And he had the ball at the end of the game, every single one of those games, with an opportunity to come back and rally the team and win those games. He was never blown out in humiliating fashion in a Super Bowl, not once. Mahomes has been blown out twice. Mahomes is now at a point where the one piece of leverage that he would have had over Tom was, I got the three-peat. You didn't. To be honest, I was a huge fan of it. I bought into the three-peat. You guys know this if you follow the show. Since the day after last year's Super Bowl, I've been on this take for a year. I don't think the Chiefs are ever able to replicate that at any point through Patrick Mahomes' career with this Kansas City team. Again, that is very difficult to do. If they go back-to-back again, I would not be shocked. But to say that they'll have another opportunity at a three-peat, I just don't see it happening. This team is arguably as good as it's ever been with young talent on defense that you're not paying yet, and the idea that they're going to run this back or they're going to make it to another three-peat potential in the future, I find that very hard to believe. Not to mention, Tom Brady does have 2 postseason wins over Patrick Mahomes. I don't care about the regular season. Tom Brady's undefeated against Patrick Mahomes when it matters most. Once in an AFC championship game with the Patriots, a team that did not have any weapons, if you want to talk about a lack of talent around him, which seems to be the excuse for Mahomes this morning. And the second time in a Super Bowl that I thought for sure Patrick Mahomes was going to win and be crowned the next guy and the next GOAT. And in the end, Tom Brady took all the wind out of his sails. And both times, yes, you can blame Patrick Mahomes' offensive line for their job or lack thereof. It felt like they were non-existent. But you cannot tell me that Patrick Mahomes has a remote GOAT debate unless he gets 8 Super Bowl rings, when at the end of the day, right now, Patrick does have 3 rings compared to Tom's 7. He has 3 Super Bowl MVPs compared to Tom's 5. He has 2 MVPs compared to Tom Brady's 3 or 4 in the regular season. Tom Brady has 2 head-to-head wins against him in the postseason, one of which is a head-to-head win in the Super Bowl, and Tom Brady's after his prime, we should say, on a new team in a year where it was a COVID year. He didn't have any practice, and now, by the way, the Patrick Mahomes turnover thing is rearing its ugly head because now Patrick Mahomes has more interceptions in 5 Super Bowl appearances than Tom Brady had in his entire Super Bowl career. Tom, I believe, had 7. Brady Brady had 7 interceptions in 10 appearances, and now Mahomes has 10 turnovers or 10 interceptions in just 5. Tom Brady is the best quarterback I have ever seen, and right now, I know people laugh at this, but like to me, the comparison between LeBron and Jordan and Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes has never been more accurate. Because you know what? In my heart of hearts, I truly do believe that Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the league's history. And I do believe that LeBron James is the best player in NBA history. But from the GOAT debate, the GOAT perspective, a conversation about greatness, what Jordan did will never be replicated from a rings point of view. And you know what? People might say it's a little bit of luck. There's a little bit of luck in all of this. The GOAT debate takes into account everything, including the championships. And the championships matter because you're talking about greatness. And what Tom has done, the 7 Super Bowls, that is unparalleled greatness. And the head-to-head, what really does it for me is the nail in the coffin of the GOAT debate, besides the fact that Brady never got blown out in a Super Bowl appearance, and now Mahomes has done it twice, it's revisiting those 2 head-to-head wins in the postseason. And people will point to the Eli Manning thing and the Nick Foles thing. Brady never got blown out in a Super Bowl. Mahomes has been blown out, has had the doors blown off his team, and has been humiliated before halftime in 2 Super Bowls now. That counts for something. I'll take it a step further here, and I feel like I've spent too much time on this already. Andy Reid deserves a considerable amount of blame for yesterday. He had 0 creativity. I did not see the creative trick plays that we thought we were going to see, and maybe they were buried somewhere in the playbook and they never even made their way out because in the end, the game was too far gone by the end of the first half, and we never even got to see it. But like, no trick plays. I was very disappointed in the Kansas City special teams, who has been one of their best units all year long. They didn't have their marquee special teams play, or they didn't have a great execution of a punt return, for example, like they've had in previous games. It just wasn't there. Spags felt like he was a little worried about risking something on the back end because I didn't see as many blitzes as I would have liked or exotic looks as I would have liked. And I haven't seen the all 22, but like just watching that game last night, and I purposely have not rewatched it this morning. I've made it a point to not look at any of the highlights. It felt so incomplete from the Chiefs in a way that the Eagles just were not. The Eagles were the complete opposite. They were firing on all cylinders in every single unit, and the Kansas City Chiefs at every single unit, in every position, every staff member, every trainer, every coach, every main guy, quarterback, and tight end, the guys that we love, all came up short. And that's really all there is to it. But for now, I will reiterate this one more time. The GOAT debate is over. For me to even consider reopening it, Patrick Mahomes would have to win 8 Super Bowls. It's a minimum of 5 years that we're closing off this debate for, because at the end of the day, Tom was never blown out in a Super Bowl. He lost all of his Super Bowls by 1 possession. He had an opportunity to win. He always played good enough to give his team an opportunity to win, even if they did not deserve it in the years where the Patriots, towards the end, really did not help him out, and he had a lack of weapons. Mahomes has now been blown out in not one but 2 Super Bowls. Mahomes has lost 2 postseason games to Tom Brady. He is completely defeated against Tom Brady in the postseason, one of which is a Super Bowl that he got humiliated in a COVID year where Tom Brady did not have time to prepare with his team. When you look back on it, Brady's star has never shone brighter, and I think this is even crazier to think about. I don't think that we ever thought that Tom Brady would leave the booth yesterday having his stock raised so much on his playing days when he walked in there as a broadcaster. But that's the way that it happens. That's the way the cookie crumbles. And in the end, the Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champs, and they feel like they are a dynasty dethroner, and they deserve all the credit in the world. And Howie Roseman is the best general manager in football, and Nick Sirianni is the perfect coach for the Eagles. Moving on from football for now, our last story, the Luka-AD trade. There are so many things that I could say about this. So many things. And I think we'll have a guest in a couple weeks who is very passionate about this topic, who I think you guys are really going to enjoy hearing from. But for now, my initial reaction to this Luka-AD trade. There's so many angles I could take. I cannot emphasize that enough. And I've seen the conspiracy theories, and to be honest, I'm kind of buying into them about the whole casino, and they want to move the team to Vegas. I've seen that, and I'm low-key, I've got a foot in the water. Not a toe in the water. I've got like a whole foot in the water of that conspiracy theory about why Luka was traded to the Lakers and why the Dallas Mavericks would ever in a million years make this kind of decision. In the end, Nico Harrison, the current general manager for the Dallas Mavericks, said, we're making this decision to win now. How the hell can you tell me that this is a win now move when Kyrie Irving's going to be 33 in a month, AD is going to turn 32 next month, and Klay Thompson turned 35 on Saturday? This is not a win-now move. You traded for a guy who, yes, is a very complete player in AD, was playing some of his best basketball, but you can't go out and criticize Luka for his conditioning and the potential lack of availability as a result, and then trade for AD, who, let's be honest, is no Iron Man. I don't want to buy too much into the narrative because AD did have a really nice stretch where he was healthy, but now I read an article this weekend on The Ringer that was excellent, and literally after I read it, I get a notification on my phone that AD is out indefinitely is the fear with a non-contact injury. You cannot tell me if you're the Dallas Mavericks that this was a win-now move getting rid of Luka, who is your biggest superstar today, tomorrow, and 10 years from now, and then trade for AD, who is historically not exactly an Iron Man, and who literally goes down within a week of this trade. Within a week of the trade going down, he goes down with a non-contact injury and is now out, like I said, indefinitely. I mean, the whole narrative about, I could repeat myself over and over again. Kyrie is going to be 33 in a month. AD is going to be 32 in a month. Klay turned 35 on Saturday. This is an older core of a team that is not exactly built to win now, despite what Nico Harrison says, and they're definitely not built to win in the future. I don't care if AD is a more complete player. Luka is a big superstar. He is a once-in-a-generation talent. He is a once-in-a-lifetime talent for this particular franchise or for a franchise in general, and they just let him walk out the door for nothing more than a player and a first-round pick? Is that really what this has come to? This is where GMs fall in love with their own mindset, and they trick themselves into thinking that they're a bigger part of the puzzle than they ever deserve to even be considered to be a part of. I mean, that is one of the most disappointing trades in the NBA, if you're a Dallas Mavericks fan. It is the craziest trade of my lifetime. It is the worst trade of my lifetime, arguably worse than Deshaun Watson, arguably worse than Russell Wilson, because you let a guy who's in his prime go for a bag of chips. And that's not disrespectful to AD, but the reality is you only got one first-round pick. Bridges got like 3 or 4 first-round picks in exchange, and you could only get one first-round pick in exchange for Luka in addition to a player? That does not satisfy me from a Dallas Mavericks fan. That doesn't satisfy me as a basketball fan. That trade doesn't go through on NBA 2K, much less should it have gone through in real life. But now Rob Pelinka looks like an absolute genius. You just bought him 10 years of runway for his current job. No matter what happens, he will forever be a legend in LA, and I can't believe that this happened this way. Well, Ben, if AD's healthy, the whole if AD is healthy premise, which now he is no longer healthy, like, we've got to stop when it comes to this. I'm all for pro player, and I'm all for taking it easy on guys who put their body in the line week in and week out. With that being said, stop it with the, when he's healthy. I've been hearing when he's healthy about Kawhi Leonard, for example, since I was in middle school. I graduate in a year from college. You can't tell me when healthy about an elite athlete when you're trading away a guy who you claim the reason why you're concerned about him is conditioning, which will affect his availability because of injury. It doesn't make any sense to me. It is the worst trade of my lifetime. The Dallas Mavericks are going to forever regret this. And the Lakers now have a star who reportedly will debut tonight. And I couldn't be more happy for him. I think Luka will be great in LA. And I can't wait to buy that jersey. But man, there is no justification for this trade. And the Dallas Mavericks messed up big time. With that being said, that is all for this week's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Football season is officially over. We'll still talk about NFL free agency, of course, because that frenzy is going to start soon enough. We also have the NFL draft, but basketball season is going to give us plenty to talk about this year, and I could not be more excited. We have an amazing spring coming up. I'll stay with you throughout the entire thing. I'll see you next week.